I politely declined my neighbor's offer to go in on a shared driveway renovation. A week later, a concrete wall was poured inches from my garage door, blocking me in. He stood there, arms crossed. Guess you'll learn the value of unity now. I thought it was over, until I noticed something was off with my water bill, and when I checked the underground lines. I bought this house in Reading, Pennsylvania almost 10 years ago. Not too far from the city center, but far enough to avoid the noise. It's a quiet street, the kind where people nod when they walk their dogs but don't ask personal questions. That's exactly what I wanted. I work from home, I keep to myself, and I don't bother anyone. My wife passed 5 years ago. Since then, it's just been me. The house, the lawn, my projects in the garage. Peace and quiet. I don't need much. 3 years ago, a guy named Lester moved into the house next door. Gray hair, leathery skin from too much sun, always wore jean shorts and a tank top like it was still the 80s. He drove a lifted Dodge Ram that he let idle like it made him feel powerful. The kind of guy who leaves his garbage cans out for 3 days and gets defensive if anyone brings it up. We didn't talk much. Just nods and waves. Once, we exchanged words about a tree root cracking the sidewalk between our houses, but that was it. Then, about 6 months ago, Lester knocked on my door holding some papers. Hey neighbor. Thinking of redoing the driveways. They're looking rough. Figure we go in on it together. Shared costs, clean look. Think about it, man, it'll boost both our property values. I glanced at the estimate. He already had a contractor lined up. Thing is, my driveway wasn't perfect, but it was fine. His had potholes, sunken spots, big cracks like a map of the Grand Canyon. I said, I appreciate it, but I'm good for now. Mine doesn't really need fixing. He stared at me longer than he should have. That salesman's smile didn't drop, but something behind his eyes changed. He muttered, All right, suit yourself, and walked off. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Exactly a week later, I woke up to the sound of engines and voices. Looked out the window and saw a cement truck in front of Lester's place. Guys in safety vests were moving around. I went out front to see what was going on. When I stepped outside and looked toward my garage, I froze. They had poured a concrete wall. About 4 feet high. From the edge of his property, across the thin strip of land between our driveways, and it stopped just inches from my garage door. It didn't touch my house, but it boxed me in. I couldn't drive out. Lester was standing nearby with his arms crossed. I said, What the hell is this? He smiled like he was proud of it. Can't have disjointed property lines, man. It's all about unity. You didn't want to cooperate? That's your choice. I stood there stunned. You built a wall to block my garage? I asked. It's on my property. Check the plat. You know that if you actually paid attention to the neighborhood meetings, he said. Then he walked back inside like he hadn't just pulled a prison move on me. I called the city. Asked if there was anything I could do. They sent a guy out. He looked at the plat map and shrugged. It's technically his land. You could sue him. Might win. But it'll take time. I was stuck. So, for weeks, I parked on the street. I used the side gate to walk around to the front. It was a pain, but I figured if I ignored him, he'd get bored. Then my water bill came. Normally, it's around $40 a month. This one was $137. I checked the meter. It was spinning, even though nothing was running in the house. I thought maybe I had a leak. Called a plumber. He showed up the next day with a ground sensor and a camera snake. We checked everything inside, nothing. So he took the equipment out front. About 20 minutes into probing near the edge of the driveway, he paused. Hey, he said. There's a secondary line branching off your main. You didn't install that, did you? I said no. He said. It leads off to the side, toward your neighbor's driveway. I told him to dig. He opened a small section. And there it was. A makeshift pipe spliced off my line, poorly sealed with rubber couplers and metal clamps, running right under the concrete wall and into Lester's property. Lester had tapped into my water. I couldn't believe it. Not only did he steal my water, he built that wall to keep me from discovering it. He tried to use the driveway renovation as cover. When I said no, he got angry, and then tried to punish me while still stealing from me. This wasn't about driveways. This was about control. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table going over every interaction I ever had with him. The way he always smirked, the way he acted like I was beneath him. I wasn't going to let this go. The next day, I made calls. I hired a private investigator. Not cheap, but I figured if Lester was shady enough to tap into my water, there might be more. I started gathering everything. Photos of the pipe, the plumber's report, video of the spinning meter while nothing was on. And I started digging, not just the ground, but into his life. And that's when things started getting darker. The private investigator I hired, his name was Mark, was one of those no-nonsense, old-school types. Grew up in Philly, ex-cop, worked solo. I told him everything. Gave him Lester's full name, the water pipe photos, the wall situation, all of it. He took one look and said, "Yeah, your neighbor's a petty thief with too much time. Let's see what else he's hiding." 2 weeks later, Mark came back with a file. "Your guy Lester?" he said, flipping through papers. "He's been bankrupt twice. Once in 2009, once in 2017. Court records. Heavy debt. Gambling habits, Atlantic City mostly. Lives on a fixed income now, but still pulls in cash from odd construction jobs under the table." That part didn't surprise me. The real shock came next. "There's a police report from 2 years ago in Delaware," Mark said. "Filed by a guy who hired him to pour concrete for a backyard patio. Claimed Lester cut corners, used garbage mix, then disappeared with half the money. Civil suit was filed, but nothing came of it. So now I knew Lester had a history. I had evidence. But I wasn't ready to act yet. I wanted more. And then, one night, around 2 a.m., I heard a noise. A metallic clank. A low scrape. I live alone, and my house is dead quiet at night. This wasn't normal. I got up, looked out the front window, and saw a shape near my water meter box. Someone crouched down, holding a flashlight. I didn't think. I grabbed my phone and my baseball bat and ran out the front door. By the time I got close, the guy stood up. It was Lester. He didn't even flinch. Just wiped his hands on his shorts like he was adjusting something. "You shouldn't be out here, man," he said. Calm, flat. "What the hell are you doing on my property?" I asked. He looked at me, real cold. "I was just checking something." "You've been messing around near the lines. Thought maybe you caused a break. Figured I'd take a look before the city got involved." "Middle of the night?" I asked. He smiled. "Best time to hear leaks. Pipes are quiet." I stood there, bat still in my hand. He looked at it. Didn't say a word. Then he turned and walked away. The next morning, I called the city again and requested a tamper-resistant meter lid. I also ordered a Ring camera for the side yard and front path. But the damage was already done. This guy wasn't just stealing, he was getting bold. That's when I decided it wasn't enough to just expose the water theft. I wanted everything. I wanted to ruin his life. Mark came through again. He found out Lester was behind on property taxes. Close to foreclosure, actually. 2 years of unpaid bills. One more missed payment, and the county could seize the home. I did more digging on my own. Talked to a guy in city records. Found out that Lester's permit for the driveway wall had been fast-tracked, but the reason it passed inspection was because of a forged signature from a neighboring property owner. The signature was supposed to be mine. It wasn't. He forged my name. That changed everything. I had photo and video proof of the illegal water tap, forged signature on city records, history of shady business and lawsuits. A pattern of sketchy behavior and threats, and then, one morning, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. A woman. She sounded shaky. I don't know if I should be calling, but I used to live with Lester. Years ago. I found your number from a friend. If he's still pulling the same stuff, you need to be careful. I called her back. Her name was Rachel. She lived with Lester for 2 years back in Lancaster. Said he was manipulative, controlling, and dangerous. Not violent, but smart. He'd lied to neighbors, forged documents, even managed to screw a landlord out of rent by faking a gas leak. He'll act calm, she told me. He'll make you look like the crazy one. He always plans 3 steps ahead. Watch your mail. Your power. Your trash pickups. He finds ways to mess with things that don't leave fingerprints. I started to wonder how long Lester had been planning this. I remembered little things from the past year. My mailbox left open on rainy days, trash pickup skipped even though I put it out on time, the time my power flickered off for a few minutes in the middle of a Zoom meeting. He'd been chipping away at me for months. This wasn't over a driveway. This was something bigger. Lester had picked me as his next target. And I was about to show him he picked the wrong one. After talking to Rachel, I started seeing everything different. Every little inconvenience from the past few months. The trash, the flickering lights, the sudden, accidental, package deliveries to the wrong house, it all made sense now. Lester wasn't just trying to mess with me. He was trying to wear me down. Break me quietly, piece by piece, until I either moved or snapped. And I almost did. The stress got bad. I couldn't sleep through the night. I was checking the cameras constantly, jumping at every little sound. I didn't tell anyone else about what was happening because I didn't want to sound paranoid. But I knew. And then things got worse. One morning I went out to my truck and found a nail jammed into the side of one tire. Not just run over, wedged in sideways. It didn't blow out, but it was leaking slow. 2 days later, someone filed a noise complaint with the city. Said I was running illegal machinery in my garage after midnight. Total lie. But I still had to talk to a city inspector and show him around. Then, the real hit came. A letter from the IRS. Not a bill, an audit notice. It said there was a discrepancy on my 2023 return. Said someone had reported a separate source of income under my name. Something about freelance contracting. I nearly threw up. I called the agent on the letter. She explained it had come from an anonymous report. Someone had submitted a tip online, claiming I was running an unlicensed business out of my home. Now, that's not illegal on its own, but it raises red flags. And the worst part? The fake report had enough real-sounding details to trigger a full audit. It was Lester. Had to be. The man was trying to destroy my life in layers. But here's the thing. I wasn't just sitting on my hands. I had been gathering everything. Mark was still digging. And the forged signature on that permit? That was my silver bullet. I filed a formal complaint with the city planning department. Attached my ID, the permit copy, and a notarized affidavit stating that I never signed any driveway renovation approval. It triggered an internal investigation. And while that was happening, Mark hit me with something huge. Lester had a second name. Buried in court records from over 20 years ago, there was a sealed bankruptcy under the name Lyle Ernest Rule. Same birth date. Same social security number. Turns out, Lester changed his name back in the late 90s after being charged with construction fraud in New Jersey. Plea deal. He paid restitution, changed his name legally, and disappeared from the radar. Mark sent me the documents. Mugshot and all. The real reason Lester had built the wall wasn't about a shared driveway. It wasn't even about water theft. That was just the beginning. He was hiding who he was. And now I had the full story. So I did something risky. I left a note on his porch. Short. Simple. I know who you are. I know what you did. It's over. No name. No signature. Just that. That night, Lester didn't sleep easy. He kept his porch light on all night. Walked back and forth past his windows. He even came out around 3 a.m. and checked his driveway with a flashlight. He knew. He just didn't know how much I had. The next morning, I got a knock at the door. It was him. He stood there with this stiff look, like he was trying to smile but forgot how. Hey, got a minute to talk? He said. I looked him dead in the eyes. About what? He hesitated. I think maybe things have gotten out of hand. No need to drag each other through legal hell, right? Maybe we can, smooth this over? I didn't move. Take the wall down. Pay for the water theft. Sign a written admission of what you did. He flinched like I slapped him. That's not gonna happen. I stepped closer. Then don't come back here again. I'm done playing defense. He walked off. But he was scared now. I saw it. He didn't know the city had already opened a permit fraud case. He didn't know I had the forged documents in a sealed folder ready to go. He didn't know about the alias. All he knew was that the guy he tried to screw over wasn't rolling over. And I wasn't even close to finished with him. A week after Lester came to my door trying to smooth things over, the city inspector showed up again. This time with a clipboard, 2 guys from the planning office, and a police officer. They walked straight to Lester's wall. I watched from my porch as they examined it, measured it, took pictures. Then the officer knocked on Lester's door. The whole street watched as he opened it. He looked confused, then irritated. Then I saw it, that moment when his face dropped. Like someone had pulled the air out of his lungs. The officer handed him a paper. Lester argued loud enough for me to hear. You're basing this on his word? That guy's been harassing me for weeks. The inspector didn't even flinch. He pointed at the paper. The forged signature is a felony. If you've got a different story, you can tell it to the judge. They gave him 30 days to tear down the wall. If he didn't, the city would, and they'd bill him plus fines. That was just the start. I filed a civil suit. Water theft, property obstruction, and forgery. I attached the plumber's report, the surveillance video of Lester sneaking around my meter box at night, and a full write-up from the private investigator confirming the fraudulent alias and prior charges. But the real blow? I submitted everything to the local news. The Reading Daily ran a headline. Local man exposes neighbor's stolen identity and water theft scheme. They blurred Lester's house, but not his name. The story went viral in the region. A week later, I got a call from Rachel, the woman who had warned me. She told me 2 more people came forward with similar stories after seeing the news. One was from Delaware. Another from Allentown. Both claimed Lester had cheated them on construction jobs and vanished. I passed those names on to the city attorney. Then came the real hammer. The IRS came back with results from the audit. That anonymous tip Lester had submitted? Backfired. They found him instead. Turns out, Lester had been getting paid cash for side construction jobs, unreported. For years. He tried to burn me with a fake report, and it led them straight to his mess. The feds opened an investigation. Tax fraud. When they came to serve him with papers, I watched again from my porch. Different officer this time. Federal badge. Black SUV. Lester didn't argue this time. He just stood there, mouth open, arms at his side. Then came the sheriff. For unpaid property taxes, he was officially in foreclosure. They gave him 60 days to vacate or pay in full. With all the legal heat he was under, I knew he wouldn't make it. But I didn't stop there. I hired a contractor. Had them dig up my driveway and reroute my water line completely. Buried a fresh pipe deep, sealed tight, and paid for a brand new meter box with a private lock. Then I did something even more petty. I installed a massive, motion sensor LED floodlight pointed right at the edge of his house. It clicked on any time someone walked past the boundary. City approved. Fully legal. Lester started yelling over the fence again. You're obsessed. You're a damn lunatic. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. 3 weeks later, I watched a moving truck pull up to his driveway. He didn't wave. He didn't look at me. He just loaded a few cheap plastic bins, some beat-up furniture, and drove off in that rusted Dodge Ram. Gone. I waited 3 more weeks just to make sure it stuck. Then I bought the strip of land between our houses at auction, for $900. That piece he built the wall on? Mine now. So I did what any calm, reasonable man would do. I hired the same crew that tore down his wall, to pour a brand new one. Same height. But cleaner. Straighter. On my land. On the side facing his old house, I had them engrave it in all caps. Never again. It became a local photo spot. People would pass by and ask what it meant. I never answered. Just smiled. A month later, I got a letter from the court. Lester pled guilty to forging documents, and received 2 years of probation. He paid fines, lost his house, and owed back taxes he'll be stuck paying for a long time. But the final twist? The new neighbors who bought his house. Young couple. Teachers. Quiet. Friendly. Invited me to a barbecue the first week they moved in. At one point, the husband said, Hey, weird question. The seller didn't tell us much, but why is there a floodlight facing the old driveway? I smiled. Let's just say it's there to keep things honest. He laughed. Fair enough. And for the first time in a long while, I finally felt peace. Lester thought he could walk over me. Steal from me. Humiliate me. Instead, he lost everything. I didn't just get revenge. I erased him. Piece by piece. Quietly. Forever.